Hi there, Happy New Year. Steve here, Steve Kaufman, to talk about language learning. And today I'm going to talk about the importance of novelty, of new things. It's a new year and why we need new things when we learn languages, or maybe other things as well. 2018, wow. I remember when I was, a teenager, we had the novel 1984 by George Orwell, and 1984 seemed like a long way into the future. And here we are, 2018. New novelty. I often refer to a book by Manfred Spitzer, okay, called Lernen, Gehirnforschung und die Schule des Lebens. Brain research and the school of learning, of life, school of life. He said in there something that I think is quite profound, and it affects language learning, and that is that the brain needs, and he's a brain surgeon, he's a neurosurgeon, cognitive sort of science and stuff. The brain needs repetition, but it needs novelty, okay? We need new things. We can't just keep repeating, studying the same material. Robert Bjork of UCLA has a bunch of videos where he talks about interleaving, where, if you block learn, if you try to learn this one thing, eventually the sort of law of diminishing returns sets in. You're learning less and less. We need novelty. So, the one thing because I've been studying, I have these 10 mini stories in Link, which I've been studying and listening to. I've listened to them 30, 40 times, reread them, and still the same places I don't understand. I read it wrong again and so forth. But today we uploaded another 20 stories, mini stories, into Link because I don't control it. This is done by our collaborator Zoran in Serbia, who has found someone on Upwork, which is an outsourcing website, to translate these stories and record them in Arabic. And she, by the way, is doing a wonderful job. And so another 20 were loaded up. I just got started. So even though I haven't mastered the first 10 stories, the idea, I'm like a kid in a candy store now. I've got these new stories that I can go in and pick my way through and listen. And as I work my way through these, and again, I'll not understand and whatever, but all the while I'm exposing myself to the language, and gradually everything becomes clearer. Gradually the writing system becomes clearer. More words start to stick. And I often remind myself, I'm as much as I'm determined to sort of learn these 10 stories and try to get better at them, and even not master them, but at least understand more of them. And I am understanding more, but I'm not moving as fast as I would like. Then I remind myself, you have to inject some novelty. So at that, even a couple of days ago, I said, okay, I have got a sense of the Arabic alphabet. Let's see how it all works in Farsi. And some years ago, I bought this living language Farsi course. So I started listening to a bit of Farsi. Of course, I don't understand a thing, and started reading the first few lessons here. It's just to see, for example, the Arabic alphabet with a different language. It injects some novelty. And I know I'm going to continue on to Farsi later on. But now that I have the new stories at Link, I may just I may still every so often have a peek at Farsi, but I will stay with the new stories. But the important thing there is to inject novelty, get some things in there that are new, that stir up the brain. The brain likes to be stimulated. And to some extent, if we keep on sort of plowing the same furrows in the field, after a while we're not achieving anything. So very important. By the way, not everything new is good. I had a look at the newer version of this living language, and it is much worse than this one, which was published in 2007. For whatever reason, Living Language has completely dumbed down their language courses, lots of pictures and stuff like this. And so I certainly will not be using that material. We do have, again, Zoran is searching for Farsi speakers to help us with the mini stories in Farsi. Apparently 1 to 15 have been done. very good audio quality. So I will get onto that. But I do enjoy using books, and certainly this older version of the Living Language series makes an awful lot more sense than what Living Language is doing now. And this was my experience with the Hebrew and the Greek. I bought them both on Amazon, but I found them quite useless. So there you have it. Happy New Year. Make sure that in the new year, you don't just keep, pushing and pushing and pushing on a limited amount of material and repeating it. You have to do some of that, but you also have to make sure you provide your brain with novelty, with stimulus, with interest. And if you keep varying it, you'll probably make some progress, as I hope to make progress in my Arabic. Thank you, and all the best for the new year. I forgot to mention that our survey of whether people are holistic learners or detailed or bits and pieces learners, grammar learners, I think it was basically 3-1 in favor of holistic learners. So most people are holistic learners, learn from gradual exposure to the language, not necessarily deliberately trying to nail down words or grammar rules, but gradually allowing the brain to get accustomed to the language, but do vary it up, spice it up with some novelty in there. And, it reminds me of something else. When, the sort of computer translation was first developed, it was thought that somehow the application of the sort of grammar logic of languages would be key to enabling computers to translate things. And it turns out that was not the case. It turns out that it was this sort of massive exposing the computer to massive amounts of, as it turns out, material from the Canadian Parliament, where everything is translated from English to French or from French to English. And so that gave them sort of massive amounts of content whereby the computer could identify patterns. And the way we learn, I think, is very much that way. Obviously, some theoretical, grammatical explanation can help. It's not a harm. But more than that, just as with the computer, we have to let the brain identify patterns by massive exposure. But that exposure, you do need to move on to new stuff. You can't just stay with the same old stuff all the time. Okay, bit of a ramble there. Bye for now.